Hey guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And we got a lot of great stuff we're going to cover on the show today. The main crux of the show, though, we're going to talk about an interesting comment that I recently got from a woman. I do have women that watch my videos, and I think it was on the pull-away test video where she was saying basically that she found it interesting that some of the advice that I give guys is the same advice that women coaches give women to try to help them to date. And I found it very interesting because in doing this for so long, what I recognize is that the information that guys use to try to get women works for a variety of reasons that same advice would not actually, for the most part, work for women to try to do on men. So I want to go over why that is today, just to answer that lady's question, and to go over some of the things that I may have taught you guys and why, if women are trying to teach that to women, it actually doesn't work. So we got a lot to cover, but for starters, I got a few things I want to talk about first. As I was starting this show, I saw an interesting comment on the pull-away test video, and I've had a lot of guys comment under that video saying things akin to, well, if a woman pulled away from me, I'm only giving her one chance and then she's out of here. Or if she's pulling away, it shows that she's not interested and she's disrespecting me, and therefore I'm not going to stay around. So this one guy left a comment that I actually really, really like. And he said, all these guys in the comments are getting perturbed about women not always giving them constant attention. So they'll, quote, move on or cut her out. If you're only dating, then how can you expect her to drop everything for you? Women are emotional creatures. Some days they'll be all over you, and some days they'll be stressed or distant. Just keep on doing your life, bro. And then he said, good video. So yeah, that's the general thought that I had, is that you cannot realistically expect a new woman that you just met for the first time to suddenly have this full flush of feelings for you, to where she's going to want to be around you all the time and want to answer every single text that you send her all the time. Because the reality is this also, you don't know what her life cycle is like, meaning you don't know what her tired schedule is. You don't know if, like, after days of work, she wants to sometimes just go home, rest, and not have to worry about talking to people. You don't know if she's an introvert like you. You don't know if maybe it's that time of the month and she just doesn't feel like dealing with people. Like, no matter how much you think a woman likes you in the beginning, the reality is that in the beginning, she could be seeing you or other people, or she could just be seeing you, but her level of like for you is going to increase as you date more. So after 2 or 3 dates, if she, like, you know, in your eyes seems to be pulling back or not texting you as much, you can't assume that, like, that's a bad thing or that it means she suddenly lost full interest. It could just mean this is part of her life cycle where she sometimes needs a break. Just like you as an introvert need a break from people. I could love my family to death. If I go see them on vacation, I could love them all day. I know there's going to be a point in that vacation where I got to drive off somewhere, or I got to lock myself in my room and not talk to them because I need that time. So you as an introvert of all people should understand, if a woman's pulling away, it's nothing personal. Sometimes it just is that maybe she's spent a lot of time with you and she wants to talk to other friends of hers, or she had a hard day at work and she just wants to rest, or maybe you text her a whole lot and she's like, you know what? I want to take a break from being on my phone and deal with what's right in front of me, and I'll get back to him later. But you can't take it so personally, especially so early in the dating process when you guys are not anything yet. All right. So I just wanted to give kudos to that guy's comment. I really like that. Real quick, guys, as you guys know, let me just share my screen real quick, because on November 1st, the Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy will be opening up. I just want to share this real quick right here. So yeah, so you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com right now and join the waitlist for this academy. This is going to be like the Netflix of dating advice. It's going to be basically a lot of different channels that will teach you a variety of different things about the dating game. Everything from approaching women, how to go on successful dates, how and when to text them and when not to text them, and just a bunch of stuff that I've learned over the years and that I've also recorded over the years to produce hundreds of hours of content that is going to help you immensely in your dating life. So if you're interested in that, go sign up for the wait list. When you do, you'll have access to this thing right here, the Girlfriend Roadmap Checklist, which is basically a 3-month blueprint on how you need to pace yourself in order to go from just dating a woman to getting her into a relationship. All right. And again, that's going to be coming out on November 1st. Next week, we might have a lot of awesome stuff that's going to be coming out for you guys to experience. So be sure to stay tuned for that. All right. So let's get my notes out here. What are we talking about today? So to start off with, I want to answer another question that a guy left me. It's a really short question. I don't think it needs a lot of explanation, but this is an example of like when you join the Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy, you'll be able to have instant access to me. So when you ask me a question, I'll be able to answer it within 24 to 48 hours versus like, you got to wait until I do these shows, and I do them once a week live now and then chop them up. So if you join the academy, then these will be answered for you a lot faster. But anyway, so this guy asked the question. He said, the chick I work with was giving me good vibes, real good connection. Got her number. Texted back and forth for 2 days while she was at work. No response for a few days. I called to try to link up and no answer. I'm confused. We had a tight connection and now just disappeared. Should I call again? Well, guy, to start off with, if you knew that she was working, you should not have been texting her. I tell you guys all the time, texting kills attraction, but it especially kills it when you're texting a woman at a time that you know she's probably busy because she's trying to juggle doing work stuff with talking to you. And then she's also thinking subconsciously, this guy has all the time in the world to text me. Why doesn't he have something else going on? Is his life not that exciting? Is he just sitting by the phone waiting for me to respond to him? And that image in a woman's head does not look great. So you should have been texting her in the first place. You should have only been texting her to get a date. But to be fair, you tried to call her and she didn't pick up. I don't know if you left a message or not, but if you've tried calling her and asking her out, and you've tried texting her and asking her out, and you've done it at least twice, then I'd say no. Women are not, are not dumb. They know when they're getting phone calls, and most people's phones work. So if she's not responding to your calls or text messages, it means that she's not interested. And as I've said in previous shows, when women are rejecting you, they're going to be passive in their communication. So they're not going to just come out and say, hey, so just so you know, I was interested at first, but then you text me too much, or I found somebody else better, or I'm just no longer interested, so I'm out. What they're going to do is try to ghost you because they don't want to have to deal with the upfrontness of having to actually say to you, I'm no longer interested. So if you've tried calling her, hey, maybe try calling her one more time. Maybe try texting her just a full on, hey, I wanted to see if you were free this day or this day. I want to take you this place. Let me know if you're available. And then if she doesn't respond, that's your answer. It really is that simple. So now I want to go on to this particular situation that this guy was going through. And I found it interesting because he had a question about, basically, he's seeing a woman right now. They've been seeing each other for 3 to 4 months. There's been no hookup or any kind of like physical connection. And so there's another friend of his that's trying to hook him up with a friend of hers. And he feels kind of odd about it because he doesn't want to, basically feel like he's cheating on the other woman who, again, to say it again, they have not actually hooked up before. So let me just share this on the screen real quick here. Here we go. All right. So here's this guy's situation. He says, I'm seeing someone right now for 3 to 4 months, and we haven't gotten intimate, and we haven't had any talk yet. My friend, who is concerned that I am almost 40 and still single, introduced her friend to me, who is also marriage-oriented. She does live a few states away and said she wouldn't mind moving here. So in my head, this is already, it's not the worst look in the world, but I feel kind of ambivalent about long distance relationships, unless, of course, the person is actually willing to legit move. If it's working out, then that could be a situation you try to take on, but recognize it's going to take a lot of work to actually make that happen because you have to talk to them. You have to know that you're not going to be dating each other like you're regularly dating. So I've seen it work. Like I've had friends of mine that are now married. They started off in different states and they would just write each other on Facebook and, video chat each other. And then finally he came to visit. But then eventually he moved to where she was at and they were able to make it work out. So that's the only way those situations can work out is if one person's actually willing to move to the area where the other person is. Anyway, he says, I do want to settle down and I do want the chemistry to be there too. However, I do feel guilty, like I am cheating if I talk to her. Should I tell the person I am dating anything or date both and see who I have more chemistry with? I feel like I'm two-timing, but last year around the same time, I also had an opportunity to talk to someone new, and I thought I was steady with the person I was dating. Then she ghosted me. So this is a situation that happens, and he's, admittedly, there's a lot of guys out there that are really nice guys that are just like, I don't want to feel like I'm getting over on this other person that I'm currently dating because it'll be two timing and it feels like cheating, right? But here's the thing. He's not gotten physically intimate with this other person yet, and I'll get into more of that later. And so they haven't also proclaimed this as them being boyfriend and girlfriend. So you know my motto, guys, if there's no titles, both people are allowed to see other people and do whatever they want until such a time as one of those people, which should traditionally be the woman, comes to the other person and says, hey, what are we? Can we be in a relationship, right? But I was curious. So I wrote him and I said, hey, why haven't you been intimate yet? Have you tried making the moves on her, or has she outright said she's not ready to do it yet? And his response was, I have, and I tried to be blunt, like, come stay at my place. And then I said, okay, I got it. So the first woman has low interest, and the second woman lives out of state. Neither are good options. And again, with the caveat that this other person that's out of state, if she's legitimately willing to move to where he's at, then that could potentially be something he would want to explore. But that's a maybe right now because they haven't had any major conversations. They haven't had any dates. They haven't seen each other in person. So that's still up in the air itself, right? So then this guy asked the question, this other guy, and he says, hey, wait, why low interest? That's certainly possible, but she may also just like to take things very slowly, or she's waiting for the OP to make a commitment. So I could tell from this guy's comment that he is very inexperienced in dating women that have high interest. And so this is my full response to this guy. I said, well, you could be right. I don't know all the particulars of their dating situation. So for all we know, they could be kissing, hugging, and doing other things except getting physically intimate. But that said, this has been my experience, guys, women that have high interest in a guy are usually the ones trying to passively suggest that they get physical, usually within the first 2 months. And honestly, usually within that first, second, or third date. But anyway, unless she's experienced some kind of, physical trauma in the past, what's likely happening is she has low interest, but likes the attention and likes being taken out. And like I said, if you've never dated a woman that is highly interested, this is going to be a very hard concept to grasp. Because I went through this too. When I was in my college days and I was going on these dates with women and I was trying to just, kiss somebody the third or fourth date. And I got these responses like, well, I'm just a really slow person. I don't want to blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I'm seeing these same girls later on, like at dances or with other guys. They meet them the first time. And next thing I know, they're making out that same time. No date, not really knowing each other for a long time. And so what that taught me was that women, when they're highly interested, their bodies cannot help but do the things necessary to be able to eventually get that guy in bed. And in my own experience, most women that have a high interest are trying to get me to go to the sack with them after like the first or second date. So when I see guys saying, well, it's been 3 or 4 months and she just likes to really, really take it slow, she doesn't take it that slow for guys that she has a high interest in, but she will take it slow for guys that she's not completely sure about, or she's apprehensive about, or maybe she's seeing multiple guys and he's not on the top tier of the guy that she's trying to choose. That's when women are going to be like, oh, well, we need to wait because she's not really sure if this is the guy that she wants. So anyway, I said in my early days of dating, I would have thought the same thing. Maybe she needs more time or that physical intimacy is really precious to her. But I'm 40 now and I've dated enough women to know when they have high interest in you, they're usually trying to jump your bones as early as the first date, usually no later than the third date. And true story, I once held out on purpose for like 2 months with a woman, and it was like driving her crazy, like, because I could tell she was starting to hint at wanting to do stuff. And I had been in a previous situation where I had moved, in my head, I had moved too fast. Like we hooked up by the second date. And I was like, maybe I'll just take my time this time and really try to build a emotional connection first. Well, surprise, surprise, when I came over one day and she was just dressed to the nines in lingerie in the kitchen, just cooking a meal. At that point, I had to go back out to the stores to get some gloves, if you know what I mean, because I knew at that point she was ready to get it on and popping. And who was I to deny her that, Anyway, then I said all this to say, unless she specifically stated to this man that she's waiting until marriage to hook up or has had trauma in the past, then she should have wanted to do it with him by now. The fact that she hasn't usually signals low interest. And the best way to tell, I said, for your next date, invite her over to cook dinner, then try to make moves toward the bedroom. It's been 4 months, so she should know at this point that you're not, quote, just in it to hook up, which means if she's not game for it, that her interest is low and she needs to bail. And this is the thing, guys, is that women that have a low interest in you will still stick around because She likes the attention. She likes the meals. She likes being able to tell her girlfriends that she has somebody, especially if all her other girlfriends have people that they're dating. And so you can't let yourself get stuck in that situation or fall for the okie doke of, I just want to wait, blah, blah, blah. Remember, you're the guy. So to some extent, you're setting the agenda. Yes, women are going to be the ones that typically initiate or give the signals for the hookup to happen first. But if it hasn't happened in 3 months, then you got to make some kind of move that's going to let you know if she actually wants to do this with you or if she's just wasting your time. Because if she's not hooking up with you guys, and that's an important part of getting to know somebody in a relationship, then I got news for you. She's not that interested. All right. Now, before I get to the bulk of this show today, which I'm excited to talk about, I'm going to see what comment was left here. Okay. So the comment left was, he said, good stuff. I have found that multi-dating causes a lot of headaches unless there's full transparency. Well, here's the thing about dating multiple people is that there's a difference between the dating phase and the relationship phase. And I think a lot of guys get tripped up because they're in the dating phase thinking they need to treat it like a relationship. Oh, you know what? I was going to do a whole show about this, but I'll do a short rant, right? So I'm watching Bachelor in Paradise, right? I got hooked on it. What can I say? I was in a previous relationship and I started watching it, and now I'm hooked on it, you know? But anyway, so there was this guy on there. I think his name was Andrew. I think that's right. And so this week's show, basically what happened was that the ladies that they've been talking to on the island, right? Jesse came to them and said, hey, all you ladies are going to a hotel and we're bringing some new women in, right? And it's a way to try to tempt them and to make sure that, you know, see if how strong their relationships are, right? So these girls come in and there's this one woman that's talking to this guy, and this guy's like not trying to do anything initially because he's like, well, I don't know, because, you know, I was talking to this other girl and we got a really strong bond and I don't want to break her heart and yada, yada, yada. And so meanwhile, the women are at the hotel and they're all sad because like, oh my God, we got kicked off the island and this is not fair and we're going to lose our men. And then Jesse's like, oh, no. We have some men that are actually coming to see you guys. And these, you know, muscular men from previous seasons of The Bachelor come on and they're all smitten. This is now. So anyway, so this dude on the island's like talking to this girl. And this girl's like really into him. And he's like, I don't want to, you know, mess up things with the girl that I was dating. And, you know, she's probably at the hotel, like, you know, wondering what I'm doing here. And I don't want to step out on her. Meanwhile, at the hotel, she is talking to this dude with the shirt off in a pool, and they're talking and doing whatever. And the next thing you know, they're doing this back and forth of going to him on the island. I don't want to do anything because blah, 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 blah. And then they flash to her and she is full on making out with dude. And I'm looking like, exactly. Like this dude doesn't get it, that they've only talked to each other for like 4 days. He owes her nothing. They're both still trying to find out in this process if they ultimately want to be with each other. And so part of that could be testing out other people and talking to them and making out with them and having conversations to see if you vibe. And so I was even mad. Like I was like, yeah, the woman has a right to be able to make out this other guy, because just like he's on this island with this other girl that he should be taking an opportunity to get to know and do things with, because there's no titles. There's no reason to be like judgmental or jealous about that. Now, at the point where you say you're boyfriend and girlfriend, now it's cheating. But don't get the two dating areas confused. Dating, relationships. Dating is I'm talking to you and possibly other people. I ain't got to feel guilty. Relationship is we've made an agreement now that we are talking solely to each other. And so if you step out on me with somebody else, that is now a problem. So hopefully this clears up any kind of confusion. Okay, so we're going to get to the bulk of this thing now. So like I said, my most popular video right now is the 5 reasons women pull away and how you should respond to it. And I've had a lot of great people comment on that video, but I had an interesting comment, and it was this woman named is Giovanna V. She left the comment 5 days ago, which again, if you join the Introvert Dating Success Academy, your questions will be answered a lot faster than this. But anyway, so she left an interesting comment, and she said, nice content. Funny how it's the same thing that coaches say to women. They say, for example, let the man initiate the what are we question, or, you know, to use ambiguity to keep him interested, etc. So both genders don't want a partner being delivered to them on a silver platter. So that's not really what this is about. But here's the thing, okay? because I've been doing this for a long time. I've been giving dating advice to guys since like 2005. And I've been having a podcast of some sort since 2013. And I've given a lot of information to guys, and I've studied up, because I don't just, study up on stuff and then, do trial and error stuff and then come back with like this random stuff. I legitimately have lived this stuff. I've tested it out, and I've had stuff that worked and that didn't work. And so it's interesting. I give advice to guys based on what I know will work well for men, because back in the day when I was trying to do stuff that I heard works like that women use on us, and I try to do that on women, it wasn't working. Be more emotionally available. Well, that works for women, but if I as a guy am like wearing my heart on my sleeve and being all overly emotional, as good as that sounds, the reality is most women get turned off by that. It's like there was a recent clip of Jordan Peterson where he was crying on Piers Morgan because, Piers Morgan was talking about the incel community and, how they say he's the leader of and yada, yada, yada. And he he was talking about how like he really feels for those guys because like they're just guys that simply just are bad with women. They don't hold necessarily any ill will, but like society's just casting them aside. And he cried. And what happened? Women across the world. Oh, look at Jordan Peterson crying, blah, 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 blah. So in that moment, he's trying to actually be vulnerable and he gets taken advantage of. So that's why most dating coaches will tell men, hey, like, learn to suck it up. Like, if you are emotional, talk to your guy friends about it, but don't talk to women about it, right? That's an example. But anyway, there are a lot of women coaches out there that are trying to give advice to women to do things the way men do. And I think it's important both for women to know and for guys to know why that does not work. Because sometimes men will be like, for example, men will want women to communicate, in a more straightforward manner or more like men, but that's not actually appealing to us. And you have to also understand that they have their own way of talking in their world, to where when they come to us, yes, they can refine it a little bit, but you don't actually want a woman demonstrating masculine communication, because if you want a feminine woman, that's going to turn you off. So I want to give you 4 reasons why I feel as though dating tips for men don't work all that well for women. And I'll go into some examples of the kind of tips that work for men that don't work for women. So here's the first one that I said. I said, women fall for men based on confidence. Okay. Therefore, any moves that men make that indicate a lack of confidence will turn women off. So this is why men coming to women and asking them to be in a relationship does not work well, because the question by way of design is basically you going to her with a lack of knowledge about something and indications of insecurity. So like you go to a woman and say, hey, so I just want to know, like, I really like you. And how do you feel about me? And I just want to know where you see this thing going and what are we? Well, unfortunately, because of how the question is, it indicates a lack of confidence and a lack of knowledge. And unfortunately, guys, women like to feel as though their men are knowledgeable and have confidence. So when you ask her the what are we question, it undercuts that, which can now make you appear unattractive. This is why if you've ever, and I'm telling you, women, all men have had this situation where they think something's going well with a woman, and then they go to her and say, hey, so I just want to know, like, how you feel, because, I really think I really like you and I care for you, and blah, 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 blah. And it goes from, like, we can see it in their face. It goes from like the woman was building an interest to like, now it's like, oh, I'm just not there yet. And I really think you're a good guy, but I just see you more as a friend. But you're thinking up to this point, she was showing all kinds of interest. But what happened was you came to her and said this thing, and it made her see you in a different light, an insecure light. And now she doesn't have those tingles and feelings for you anymore. But if a woman comes to a guy and does that, it looks better, because men are looking for things out of women that have nothing to do with like being overly confident or being completely knowledgeable. Like if they have those traits, fantastic. But if they don't have those things, it's not going to completely turn us off, because we as men are looking for different things. We're looking for a woman that's going to be kind, caring, fit. Can she get along with us? Can she not yell at us? And so if she comes to us asking that question, which can show off a little bit of insecurity or unsureness, that's not going to turn us off, because we're actually looking for that, because that smart guys will know that's the signal that she wants to get into a relationship. But we're not going to look at her like, oh, she asked me that question. Oh my gosh, she looks so insecure right now. I got to turn this thing away. So giving the woman the advice of, oh, wait for the man to come to you, it's not going to work, because that advice doesn't work in her favor. It's more often than not going to actually turn her off, and it's going to cause her to lose interest. The second reason why dating tips for men don't work as well for women is that the idea of being ambiguous This goes back to the whole confidence issue. So a woman that is using ambiguity, it will not work on a man that has confidence, because ultimately he's indifferent to outcomes. You trying to be wishy-washy or show if you like, maybe I do like him, maybe I don't. A guy that has full confidence is like, well, at the end of the day, if she doesn't like me, I'll find somebody else. So if she wants to be ambiguous or play the playing hard to get games, she can do that. I'm gonna go over here with these 3 or 4 other women that are showing definite interest and get my pick. Real talk. And so, and this is the attitude of confidence that ultimately, ironically enough, results in women being attracted. All right. Meanwhile, a man using ambiguity with a woman, it works because women are seeking out different things that help them get into a relationship. They're looking to, see if the guy finds them attractive. They're looking for his approval. They're looking for, to see how invested the guy is. And so when a man's kind of not showing that, it puts her in her head. It makes her a little bit insecure, which results in her having to go to her girlfriends and talk about him. And does he really like me? This is that. And all that does is build up a guy in a woman's head. Whereas a confident guy, if a woman's acting, again, a man that has his choice of women is really going to be like, if this woman's tripping, I got other options. That doesn't work as well for women, because women always have options, but they're options that more often than not, she doesn't even care to take, because it's so rare for a woman to actually find a guy that she wants to get with. So of the two sexes, being ambiguous is going to work better for guys doing it than if a woman's doing it. And I say this with the caveat that a lot of guys today are in their feelings or in their emotions. And admittedly, when a woman's acting ambiguous, they get all in their feels and don't know how to act. But that still doesn't work in their favor, because the result of that is the guy overtexts, the guy tries to invite them out to places, the guy starts looking needy and desperate. So even that still doesn't work in their favor. The third reason why dating tips for men don't work as well for women is because women are on a different clock than men are, especially as it pertains to having children if you're trying to go that route. So us men can produce offspring well into our 60s and 70s, right? And so what that means is that our timeline for when we have to get into a relationship is mostly infinite in terms of like if you want children or if you want a family or stuff like that, right? But a woman's time is very finite. Her eggs are going to decrease over time. And there's women out there, they're going to be like, but I've seen like Janet Jackson had a kid at 50 and blah, 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 blah. But let's not go with the exceptions to the rule. Let's go with the general norm, which is that most women by 35 have lost most of their eggs, and it gets harder and harder to get pregnant. So because of this time difference of the two sexes, women are going to be more prone to not wanting to waste their time. So that's why I say to you guys, it takes a woman on average 2 to 3 months to solidify her feelings. But at that 2 to 3 month mark, when she's done her due diligence, she's not going to want to keep wasting time just dating you. She's going to want to get into a relationship, to eventually become your fiance, to eventually become the wife, to eventually have kids with you. And so that's why she will come to you and say, hey, so what are we? And this is true across the board. The majority of women I've gotten into relationships with, it's because I dated them for 2 to 3 months and just kept my mouth shut. I was consistent. I showed them a good time. I showed them I care for them. We had some great physical intimacy. And by the 3rd month mark, they're like, dude, like, you haven't said anything. Like, what do you think of me? Are you seeing other people? What are we? Because again, subconsciously, they're on the clock. You as a guy are not on the clock. So it's going to look better for the woman to come to the guy and say, what are we? And if you guys wait long enough, you'll see that that'll start to happen. So that's why I say you date a woman once or twice a week for 3 months, and that's pretty much all you got to do. And at that point, they'll come to you at some point if you guys have been having a good time together and ask those questions. It works like clockwork. And then the 4th reason why dating tips for men don't work as well for women is because high value men, or not even high value, just men that women click with and have chemistry with, are in low supply, right? So as much as they want to play hard to get, as much as they want to say the guy's got to come to me and I wouldn't do this and blah, 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 the reality is that it doesn't benefit them to actually do that with men that they feel connections with, because it doesn't happen for them that often. I've done research on the amount of women that get swiped on by guys on dating apps versus how many men get swiped on. As a guy, if I swipe 100 women, like 90 of those women are going to get a positive swipe for the most part. Whereas for most women, if they swipe 100 dudes, anywhere between 0 to maybe 5 of those guys might get a right swipe. because they're looking at different things and they're being a lot more judgmental, admittedly, than guys are, in part because they have to be, and in part because today's culture makes them kind of vain. But the point is that, so you mean to tell me a woman's going to walk out in the world, reject all these men, go on a dating app, reject most of the men she's swiping on, and then find 5 guys that she thinks might work out, talk to those 5 guys, figure out that only one of them she really kind of has an interest in talking to, go on a date with that guy, have great chemistry on that date, and then play hard to get, and then not show him interest, and then try to sit back and wait for him to do like that's not happening, because she knows at that point that he's the prize, he's the rarity, he's the odds of her finding another guy just like that are probably not going to happen for her. And so she's not going to be able to do all these things that these women coaches are telling them to do like guys do, because it's not going to work in her favor. Again, especially a high value guy or a guy that's confident in what he's doing or knows how to deal with women. Like that guy, if she doesn't get him, he will find somebody else, and she knows it. So she can't afford to then try to do things that a guy would do to try to attract him. Like it just wouldn't work, So this is it. What I'm going to give you guys now is an example of advice that does not work for women to do that works for men. Okay. So for example, the whole thing of like women telling women, oh, date for fun, don't worry about a relationship. I'm telling you, women, if you're watching this now, listen to me right now. I'm 40 years old. I have women friends that are 35 and up that were hot in their heyday and were getting all kinds of offers and turned them down. And they are now 35 to 40 and they can't get dates. They can't get boyfriends. The few guys that are kind of trying to holler at them, they don't want, and it makes it very, very hard for them to date. And so if you're a woman that's like early 20s, 25, under 30, you are wasting your time if you're trying to date for fun. Now, men, again, lifetime of sperm, lifetime of being able to pump out kids. And more importantly, you need time to actually build up, your goals, your job, your money, getting a livable place together. You need to be stocking up on things that when a woman comes into your life, she can look at you and say, oh, you know what? I'll get into this situation. I feel like I'd be protected and cared for here. But women, you don't have that. So if you got to date an older guy that's more established, whatever, do that in your 20s, because I'm telling you, women in their 30s are struggling, and it only gets worse when you get into your 40s and 50s. Is it fair? It is not. But you need to know this now so you won't be like other women who I'm going to just do whatever and date like a guy and hook up like a guy, and now they're in their 30s and can't get nobody. And it's sad to see, because some of these women are like, they're smart, they're intelligent, they're funny, but they also got wrinkles showing, and it's unfair to say, but they're competing with 25-year-olds that look better, and they're finding that out now. And there were guys trying to warn them. Shoot, I feel bad that like Kevin Samuels was trying to yell to warn women that were younger, hey, stop with the foolishness. Like, try to find yourself a man now. Like, get better at how you're picking men, but also like get yourself straight, because it gets harder. I'm telling you, women, it gets harder. All right. Anyway, another piece of advice that's great for men, that's not good for women. Don't get serious with somebody until you're in your 30s. I just talked about that. Like women, if you're in your if you wait until you're in your 30s, it's going to be a harder road to follow. Another piece of advice, women shouldn't chase men. Real talk though, like the high value men that, or the men that you click with that you really, really, really want, if they're good with women or in a position in their life to where they can get anybody, women are already chasing them. So this doesn't mean, when we say chasing, this doesn't mean you got to like, like be needy and be on them all the time, but it does mean like showing interest. It does mean letting a guy know that you actually are interested. It means not flaking on dates. It means giving the occasional compliment to him, or saying, hey, I appreciate you taking me out, or I find you handsome or attractive or whatever. Or, hey, when can we do this other date? Like those things are fine. But to say women shouldn't ever chase men ever, well, you can do that, but that man's going to go to the next woman that is showing interest, and he knows unequivocally that she wants to go out with him. It just is what it is. Another piece of advice that does not work for women at all, women should be ambiguous. This goes back to the previous thing. Like you trying to be wishy-washy, or, well, maybe I'll show him interest, maybe I won't. Guys don't have time for that. Like, we're already putting ourselves out there by asking you on a date. So for us to ask a woman for a date and then her to be like, well, I don't know, I'll check my calendar. Like, it's not going to work in your favor, because while you're doing that, I'm going to be the guy that's like, well, while she's doing that, I'm going to go talk to this other girl over here that said that she's free on Thursday and gave me a definite yes to a date. Because especially a guy that's like busy and has goals to accomplish, you guys, you don't have time to deal with women that are wishy-washy or ambiguous. All right. Now, why does being ambiguous work for guys? Because here's the thing, guy, is that you being ambiguous basically equates to you being a mystery and not laying all your cards out on the table. And that's what women like. Women like the mystery, like trying to figure out who you are and like trying to unravel what makes you tick and how much she's got to do to make sure that you like her. That's fun for them. I don't know why, but it is, and that only makes them like you more. But more to the point, the things that you're doing to be ambiguous, honestly, are not things that are harmful to women. You being ambiguous, or a woman saying, he's being so ambiguous, I don't know what's going on, is this. After a date, maybe you don't call her right away. Maybe you wait a few days before you ask for the next date. Or when she asks you how you feel about her, you say something like, well, I'm still getting to know you, so you're cool, but I just want to see where this goes. Like, that's ambiguity to women, but it'll drive them crazy, but that's enough to where it'll keep them in the game and you'll still be willing a like for them, Anyway, another piece of advice that's great for men, that's not good for women to do. Women should wait for the man to ask for a relationship. Talked about that earlier. Like, you as the guy should not be going to women asking for relationships. And the reason, honestly, is because you probably are already ready for the relationship after date 3. And that's what women don't get, is that men in their heads move very fast. Most of my work here is teaching men to slow it down to the woman's pace, because after 2 or 3 dates, guys, you're ready to ask her out. But if you follow the advice of women, oh, you should be the one to ask her to be in a relationship, you're going to do it on date 3. And she's thinking, realistically, it's been like 6 hours total. Like, why is he asking me out on a date? What's going on? That seems kind of fishy. Why does he want to rush into this? Oh my gosh, because her feelings aren't there yet. Whereas if you wait for the woman, then you can do no wrong. All you're doing is asking her out and showing her a good time. You do it enough times, she'll start to think, why isn't he asking me out? I should let him know that I'm interested. Boom. Now you get into a relationship. So that's why that works better for men than it does for women, because you waiting for us to ask you for a relationship. We are so ready to do it after 2 good conversations and a good hookup. And that's usually within the first 2 or 3 weeks. So you don't want us asking, because we're going to ask really, really soon. And then you're going to give the speech to the guy of, well, I'm not quite where he's at. And so that's not fair to him. So I got to let him go. Guys, you're shooting yourself in the foot when you do that. All right. And then another thing, advice like women shouldn't discuss their feelings. Well, the reality is that, honestly, as a guy, at least on my end of things, I don't need to necessarily hear women express their feelings like all the time. Like, I just don't. But also the part of that's because I'm confident enough in myself to know when I'm doing a good job. Yes, I'm taking you out on fantastic dates. I know how to listen. I know conflict resolution skills. I know how to make you feel special in a sack. So I'm already pretty confident about where I'm at. But to tell a woman she should never discuss her feelings ever, there is a level of like a guy wanting to know that at least she appreciates what he's doing. And so guys do need to occasionally hear that, just to know, to be assured. Because in the past, we might have dated a woman that we thought were doing everything right. And then 4 months in, we're hearing, oh, you don't do this, this, and this, and you always do this thing to me. And we're like, you never told me, whatever. So the occasional thing of saying, hey, just want you to know, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a good job. That actually can be very effective for a man. Now, a man telling his feelings to a woman, until you get into a relationship, guys, focus more on your actions and not so much on the verbiage, because when you say something to a woman, they're going to read it 3 times more than you mean it to. This is why women are like the queens of passive aggressive communication amongst each other. That's why women can say to another woman, oh, I'm fine. And she'll read it as like, that's not fine. So if you say to a woman on like date 4, just, I really like you and I care for you so much and I appreciate you, she's going to think you darn near proposed to her. So keep your phrases to her very, very light, but really focus more on actions, and she'll read into those actions as, he must care for me because he's doing these actions. Okay. But anyway, this is why this kind of advice is horrible advice for women, but great for men, because a man with an abundant mindset who is confident shouldn't have to chase women. Real talk. A man should be ambiguous, or rather not completely forthcoming with his feelings, because A, women only care about how they feel about a guy. And B, a man needs to give the impression that he is selective. A man should wait for the woman to ask for the relationship, because that's when he knows that she's all in on him. Whereas we're usually feeling that much too soon for women to handle. And a man shouldn't discuss his feelings because he comes off as feminine, which isn't attractive to women. But women definitely should tell men because it makes us feel appreciated. Yeah, us telling you women all of our feelings and crying and emoting, you think and have been made to believe that that's a good thing. But what women actually really care about is when they tell us their emotions, are we able to handle it? When they come to us crying, are we going to freak out? Are we going to be able to be a safe space for them to come and cry and talk and tell us about how they're feeling and the bad day they had and the girlfriend they're not getting along with, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's not to say it's bad for you as a guy to do that. It's just you air better doing that with guy friends of yours than women. There will come a point in the relationship where that's going to be a bit more allowed. But even then, most women, I'm sorry to say it's true, typically get less attracted to men when they're coming to them moping about stuff or complaining or whining or all that other things that you think as a guy you should be able to do. Get a guy friend or get a therapist. It is not in your interest as a guy to typically go to your woman and do those things, okay? But that's why advice that I especially give to men works better for men than it does for women. There's two different sets of ways that dating works, and one is the way in which the things that men should be doing to attract women and the things that women should be doing to attract men, and women trying to tell other women to do things that men do to try to get you all. A, it turns you guys off, and B, it doesn't work, and it shouldn't work because we're different sexes, which means we need to have different strategies. And that's not to say I'm not like other dating coaches. It's like, women can't be coached ever and all women coaches are bad, because I do think there are some women coaches out there that are, helping women to see how to be more in their femininity and what guys are actually after. It's just that the best women that are doing that are not telling women to do things like men. So hopefully, women watching this helps you out. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Hope you got a lot of information out of it. Once again, guys, because, I can't stress enough that I have a program coming out that's going to be opening up on November 1st. It is called the Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy. It is the Netflix of dating academies, hundreds of hours of content and different channels that are going to teach you various aspects of the dating game so you can once for all figure out how to do this dating game the right way and land the women of your dreams. Go there now, sign up for the wait list. When you do, you'll get this free PDF, the Girlfriend Roadmap Checklist, which acts as a baseline of how to be during the first 3 months to go from dating a woman to getting into a relationship. And next week, I'm going to be doing a plethora of shows that lead up to the launch of this thing, and also giving you guys some sneak peeks into some of the things you're going to see in the program. It's going to be great. All right. But in the meantime, guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode. Be sure to give it a like. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified when I do new lives. I'm doing lives like once a week now. So if you sign up for the waiting list too, you'll also be on my email list, and I'll be able to notify you of when the next show and stuff is. And that's all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.